More ancient history jewelry stories. We are continuing our deep dive into the history of the House of Fabergé. This week, I wanted to talk a little bit about one of the features of Fabergé's jewelry and objects that really set them apart, and that's the use of color, specifically in the form of enamel. Enamel is actually a form of melted glass. Fine powder, known as frit, is applied to the surface and then heated in a kiln until it melts. And there are various ways of applying enamel to a metal surface. Peter Carl Fabergé was particularly obsessed with the techniques used in 18th century France. Many of these were considered lost, either because the techniques were not passed down between the 18th and 19th centuries, or because they were considered too difficult. One of the techniques that Fabergé used quite often is known as guilloche, when translucent layers of colored enamel are applied on a machine-engraved surface. This is a particularly lovely technique that you see in Fabergé's jewelry, household objects, and many of the imperial Easter eggs. All of this is very tricky because enamel, especially translucent enamel, has to be fired at a fairly high temperature, 600 degrees Celsius or 1,112 degrees Fahrenheit. And when you heat any type of metal, whether it's silver, gold, or copper, it's going to oxidize. Oxidized metal changes color and as a result changes the color of the enamel. This means that great care had to be taken in order to achieve the proper results. And it wasn't just Peter Carl who was responsible for all of these beautiful enamel techniques. After the death of Peter Carl's brother Agathon in 1895, a craftsman named Franz Birbaum was promoted to chief draftsman, designer, and miniature painter on enamel. He was actually responsible for over half of the 54 imperial Easter eggs. Upon his return to his home in Switzerland in the late 19-teens, Birbaum started to keep a very meticulous diary, in which he recorded all of the various formulas for achieving different colors of enamel, as well as the techniques necessary. His diaries are actually responsible for some of these enameling techniques still being used today. Without his meticulous note-taking and these reference materials, some of these techniques would have gone back to being considered lost.